us in the morning on the Fan. Sports Radio 66 WFAN.
Why the hell they want to do a musical about this corny old motherfucker is beyond me. I suppose it could be argued that he is best known as one of America's most famous humorists, and after seeing the show, I finally understand that the chief difference between a humorist and a comedian is that a humorist is not confined by the restraints of being funny. See, the whole show featured Keith Carradine as the simple backwoods man who spout witty and clever remarks while twirling a lasso. Yeah. Well, so droll are these remarks that I had all I could do to keep from running up on stage and hanging myself with a damn rope just to put myself out my motherfucking misery. I could not wait for this boy to get in that damn plane. He never met a man he didn't like with, and he never met a man who had to sit through this damn show. Because I ever meet this motherfucker on the street, I kick his country ass so bad he ain't never gonna like me. And as if the stupid jokes wasn't disappointed enough, Mr. Carradine didn't never do none of his Shaolin drunk monkey-style kung fu. However, to be fair, the real problem is not with the production. Rather, I find that I must take umbrage with Broadway as an entity unto itself. I have long condemned the aptly named Great White Way for its refusal to produce shows featuring black casts and black issues. But after spending some time in Schubert Alley, I have discovered the real reason behind this conspiracy. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, not only is it the Great White Way, it is also the Great Wop Way, as the legitimate theater is yet another show business tradition dominated by Italians and Jews. One need only take a look at the titles of the shows currently in production to see a kosher cabal and pasta plot transpiring right here in the theater capital of the world. The long-running Phantom of the Opera and the soon-to-open Catskills on Broadway are prime examples of this heinous intrigue. Who are the stars of the Boss Belt Review? Freddie Roman, Marilyn Michaels, Dick Capri, Watson Heebie-Jeebies. And as far as Phantom goes, what language they sing operas in? Italian. Who the only people go to see them? Jews. Case closed. Whatever happened to black theater? Whatever happened to the black musical, The Wiz? I'll tell you what happened. The man took over and made it a damn TV show. Why ain't there any black women tap dancing in little cow outfits in the Will Rogers Follies? Because Mr. Ziegfeld don't like duck meat. Why Kathy Rigby flying every night as Peter Pan? Michael Jordan's hang time ain't long enough for them in the mid-scope? How come ain't no black cats at the Winter Garden? Because black cats is bad luck. They ain't one in the whole damn litter. You may as well spell it K-A-T-Z, because there's Jews are popping over there. Any reason why you can't give a black person a title role in Miss Saigon? They got some English faggot playing Charlie Chan, got rubber bands over his eye. He get a Tony nomination. I demand more black productions. Phantom of the Opera. New Jack City of Angels. Les Miserables. Where the hell is Les Payne? I demand more brothers on Broadway. I demand more brothers on Broadway. I demand more brothers on Broadway.
That'll be fine, Professor Jeffries.
Thank you.
Move back and to the right to the point of forming a small mountain of wiggling frogs.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of scientific theories, and I usually, on the way to play tic-tac-toe, I allow the guests to give what I believe the scientists call either a theory or a hypothesis on why frogs move back and to the right. Some people think that all frogs were born in the same pond in southern Indiana, and they're trying to get home when they're scared.
Yeah.
And some people think that's the origin of the mildly derogatory term for French people, frogs, is that in moments of crisis, like, for instance, the Second World War, they move back and to the right very quickly. But we're not sure. I've asked people to send in some notion of why this works, but I have found, I also do, in addition to the sort of things that are in American Stories, I do a newspaper column, and a couple of times I've asked readers to help me out with something.
Right.
And I want to tell you that the results have been very disappointing.
There's no consensus here? Or?
Well, it's not only no consensus, no really good ideas. I did the same thing when a friend of mine had reason to believe that some cockroaches had crawled into her computer.
Right.
Asked people and thinking that you'd get those kind of household tips, just pour a little baking soda on, wipe with a dry cloth, that sort of thing. And instead I got stories about various other animals that had crawled into computers.
We're talking with Calvin Trillin, whose new book, American Stories, is a compilation of stories that he's written that have appeared in the New Yorker over the past 7 years. It's a wonderful book with wonderful stories, and a few books I can actually have the attention span to read, and I read all of these this past weekend. It's published by Tinker and Fields, and it's available at bookstores everywhere, although where I live there in the East Village, at the bookstore where I go, I had to go in there and ask this beatnik where Mr. Trillin's book was, and they took it back and showed it to me. But they're wonderful stories. How did you decide? Oh, one other thing about the chicken deal. Who gets to go first?
Oh, the chicken goes first.
The chicken goes first. So that would be an advantage.
Are you preparing now an excuse in case you go down there?
Well, I'm just wondering. I was just wondering.
That's perfectly okay. I think, yes, the chicken gets to go first.
Doesn't seem fair.
You could talk to the man who runs the place about maybe changing the rules once or twice, although he's not Chinese and he doesn't speak any language I can find at all. So. And I think that's a matter of strategy.
Well, he and I could probably communicate well because I don't speak any recognizable language either.
You might be able to get along with him.
Yeah. How did you decide, with respect to these stories, how did you decide and why did you decide to write about Frankie Lyman and the dispute over those? I had a particular interest in that just simply because I started in the record business, but the question is, why did you decide to write about the dispute over the royalties for Why the Fool Fall in Love?
Well, I was at first, I think, fascinated by the notion that this sort of dispute could go on for 25 or 30 years, that something we think about as having taken place in the 50s, and, the great moment of Frankie Lyman.
Hello, this is Rob Bartlett, inviting you to join me this New Year's Eve
Little production
at
here.
Scanticon Princeton, live, in person, in your face, and in 3D. Enjoy comedy, dinner, dancing to the music of the Soul Survivors.
First of all, come on. First of all, they're going to have a commercial. Get somebody who can read it to read it. Get Larry Kenney to read it.
Sure. Yeah, we got one of the best voiceover guys in the world working on the...
Fatso sits next to him every day on the couch. Get him to read it.
That's A.
That's A. And B, God, stop wearing us out with this stuff. How annoying is this? It's coming up on 740, third-rate romance, low-rent rendezvous, cheap, sleazy spot that you're running. It's horrible. It sounds horrible. You're horrible. You're fat. You have dandruff.
Okay, just checking.
Fine, good, thanks. Now get out.
Imus in the morning.
I'm David Brinkley.
And live in West Palm Beach, Florida, I'm Diane Sawyer. The news is next over most of this same station. Walter?
Thank you, Diane. News in brief. Faced with the loss of the last remaining positive Bush campaign issue, the Free the Hostages issue, the White House has announced it hopes to kill two birds by sending the universally hated White House Chief of Staff, John Sununu, to the fanatical Muslims in Beirut. The WWWIRC-REOTBCHN microphones were there.
Hey, they're spitting hostages out of there like they were in a Pez dispenser. Sutherland, Steen, Susudio.
Sir, that's a Scipio.
Susudio? I thought it was Susudio. No, you're right. Susudio was that Phil Collins thing. Anyway, you get my point. The economy sucks. Sununu sucks. So this is a way to divert attention from the one by running the other. Tell the Ayatollah he can have him.
The Ayatollah's dead, sir.
Jesus, some days nothing goes right, huh?
Meanwhile, overseas, faced with the loss of yet another breakaway republic, and this time the economically vital Ukraine, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev has just toppled himself in a violent coup. Gorbachev, in a touching gesture to an era now gone, beat himself to death with a hammer and sickle in his Kremlin office. A note found pinned to the body explains simply that he decided to topple himself while there was still something left for him to topple himself from.
And in Los Angeles, a similar tragedy, where a clearly still troubled Rob Pilatus this morning is reported to have shot himself in the head with a starter pistol.
And speaking of sports, after acquiring outfielder Bobby Bonilla for $29 million and Eddie Murphy, no, I guess that's Eddie Murray, for $7.2 million, the New York Mets have just announced the team slogan for the 1992 season.
The dream is dead. Now we switch live to West Palm Beach, Florida, where Diane Sawyer's standing by outside the fabled Kennedy compound with one of the principals in the Willie Kennedy Smith case.
Imus in the morning.
Currently a large black man, I guess he was then too. Frank Bruno. Good morning, Frank.
Happy Christmas, my darling.
Frank, I don't like it when you call me your darling. It makes me feel... I mean, I'm a man who is comfortable with my own sexuality.
Oh, so am I.
But I just don't like the way you come on to me. It's almost could be construed as sexual harassment.
Oh, well, then I guess I can't ask you to come over for Christmas Eve.
No, I guess you can't.
I'm going to mull some cider, and we can burn a couple of Yule logs.
I don't think so.
Until I come down the chimney.
I don't think I want you to do that.
I'll stand naked in the parlor. You can wrap me in garland and tinsel. I got a mistletoe belt buckle.
Sick.
Imus in the morning.
Prepares to celebrate the sacred holiday of Christmas, an ecumenical conspiracy shrouded in the spirit of peace on earth, goodwill towards men. But you may as well put the word white in front of the word males, as this is a holiday which seemingly goes out of its way to exclude blacks.
Right.
As a matter of fact, Bing Crosby even goes so far as to make the musical wish, may all your Christmases be white. The Caucasians are so adamant about keeping this celebration to themselves that they invent traditions and folklore that reinforces discriminatory thought. Good is equated by the sign of the white snow, but if you bad, Santa Claus gonna put some black coal in your stocking. But why, one might ask, is the black man prohibited from taking part in the festivities? Because once again, it is the Hebrew factions of the world who have contrived and controlled this racist machine, one which in this case is 2,000 years old. Christmas is a Zionist plot.
Well,
it may appear only on the Christian calendar, but it is, in fact, the Jews who have orchestrated this heinous holiday of discrimination. What is Christmas? The celebration of the birth of Jesus. Who was Jesus? A Jew. Why then don't Jews celebrate Christmas? Answer me.
I don't know.
Because no heebie-jeebie want to own up to a member of his tribe who got a name like a Puerto Rican. Just look at any manger and realize that if one of them wise men wasn't the brother, you would never see no Negroes in the nativity scene. Why ain't there no black Santa Claus? Well, I'll tell you why. Because if a black man dropped down your chimney into your house holding a big bag, you think he's trying to steal your stereo. Why the little children's lined up in your local mall to talk to some fat old white boy? Because if a black man walked around a department store in a big red suit, they search his ass for shoplifting. Let me tell you something, America. Santa Claus ain't no jolly old soul. He a pedophile. He a drunk old man like little children sitting in his lap. You think any normal man, his right mind, want a 4-year-old peeing on him? No. This is a sexual deviant. Why you think he sit there going, ho, ho, ho? He asking for prostitutes. He break into your house and smell your socks. Big, old, fat, greasy, stank, cookie-eating all I wanted was a damn bicycle. Didn't have to be no fancy 10-speed. All I wanted was 2-wheel and a seat. But no, fat man couldn't give me no bicycle. All he left me was a tin of Lincoln Logs, some welfare hand-me-down pajamas. There I am, poor little 5-year-old child crying, Mama, Santa didn't give me no bicycle. That burlap-looking come anywhere near my house, I'm gonna shoot him and them damn reindeer here and all over my roof. And fat man, come on, boy, come on over here, fat man. I'll kick your ass.